let's get down, as is our want. So down into a deep posture. So let's start just by moving. So remember, moving by, if we want to stay down, then we don't really want to push with the legs, we want to pull with them. Because when you push with the leg, you generally push down, which means that you come up. And when you pull with a leg, you're pulling something that's lower than you are, so you're tending to come down. So we're pulling, I'm bending the leg in order to pull myself forwards. So that's why I'm doing this with that, with the arm and the hand, because that's exactly what the leg is doing. So I'm pulling. Now the difficulty, of course, is that we cheat. So although I should be pulling with this leg, I find myself pushing with that one instead, or as well as. And I would like to just remove as much of the supporting leg as possible. So the supporting leg, which is this one, is just supporting. And the active leg is just active. So we're all the time we're trying to split things up to produce clarity. So here, this is the active leg, this is the supporting leg, and now this has become supporting, and so this becomes active. So I'm pulling myself. I pull. Pull. So what we want to feel is that when you pull with the legs, you don't just pull with the leg, you pull with your spirit. So as you pull with the leg, it's like everything is pulled. You take this sort of shape, it's like you're pulling the world into you. So it's got a natural yielding quality, like you're inviting the world in. So basically what I'm doing is inviting that spot of land to come towards me. And of course it doesn't move, so I move. So whenever we do something physically, we're wanting to feel the mood, the energy, the spirit that goes with that, so that that can happen to my entity, my completeness. So I'm pulling, and I'm pulling, I'm pulling. So this is pure John. So John, this is what John's energy was like. Because when you do it, you can feel that as you pull, you want to crane the head. And of course, that was John's posture. He craned his head terribly. It's partly because he was just, at every opportunity, he was practicing and using spirit. So every action that he did crouched him down. And the head then becomes a bit like it's on a stalk trying to crane forwards, which is not terribly healthy, but it's a component of spirit that we need to look at. So I pull, and I pull, and I pull, pull, pull. So you end up getting lower and lower. You can see how important it is to have openness in the hips, because if you get low and squat and you're not open there, the bomb has to go out behind you, so you end up having to do that, which is what we don't want. So we want to really be able to open the leaves. So I pull. Pull, pull, pull. Right. And now just standing. Okay, now just if you're just sinking and relaxing, then basically gravity is pulling you down. And if your legs are this far apart, then what is happening is your weight is basically splitting and going down the legs. And the legs are pushing in that direction, away from you. It's like just a natural sinking. So this is what would be happening if you were sinking in just a normal gravity way. And so as the legs were just relaxing and pushing away from each other, the ground, the response from the ground is to basically send streams of energy in the opposite direction up you to your danchen, which you can then use to express energy from the ground in your upper body. So that's just normal Tai Chi, sinking and relaxing. So when you're doing your standing postures, that's what you're practicing. Yeah? So basically that is akin to the pushing energy, to pushing with the legs. Yeah? It's basically these legs are pushing away from the ground to stop you from completely collapsing down. So you've got a beautiful equilibrium between the pull of gravity and your relaxation, which is allowing that gravity. And then the opposite, which is a thrust from the ground and your tension trying to straighten your legs against that to produce this balance. So the important thing when you're still in Tai Chi is that you're not frozen. There's an equilibrium of forces. Gravity is pulling me down. The earth is pushing me up. So what that produces is like what John used to call a shimmer. Like there's a slight sort of vibration or a resonance in you. So imagine if you were to hold this for as long as you could, by the time you got past a certain point, your body would be shaking and it would end up shaking quite violently. So that's just an expression of the intensification of the energies that are in equilibrium. And in a way, when we're working, we're just trying to get to that point of vibration, that point of shake. Yeah. So that's, if you like, our reality. So it's that point where you just lose your bearings. So you lose the ground, you just have to center here because it's the only thing you have left. Everything else has fallen away. Now just let it bounce gently. Yeah. So that what we're doing with the bouncing is just trying to condition the legs to be springy, to return energy. Because the temptation all the time, despite our best intentions, the temptation all the time is to freeze out energy so that the mind can think to itself. Yeah, so our enemy is that thinking mind, you know? The mind that natters. Yeah. That's great. So we're getting into the legs. It's the first stage really, just getting into the legs, and it's always difficult. There's always a bit of pain and discomfort involved in getting into the legs. Even with John, I remember, we'd all be doing pushing hands down in the downstairs room at Wimpole Street, and then he would appear from his room, obviously having just got up, having just woken up and got up, and he'd come over to me and just stand next to me, and normally he was like this high on me, and then having just got out of bed and come out, he was towering above me. But within seconds, he had slipped down into this sunk posture. So when you rest, you're coming out of your sunkness so that you can recover from it because it's quite grueling. But then of course you need to get back into it when you start working again. And it's always difficult. It's the last thing in the world you want to do. And now just bring the arms up above the head. So when the arms get tired, instead of dropping them, which is what you want to do, just bring them above the head. And then it's a completely different set of muscles being used. So the muscles that were getting tired can rest. Yeah. And again, just feel gravity streaming through your body. Feel how when you've got the arms up, there's quite a different stress on your back than there is when the arms are out. The lower back is now taking a bit more strain, so you need to tighten the belly to help support that. So you don't want the bum to flick out. You don't want the lower back to get too curved. So you're just bringing in enough tension here to just straighten your lower back a little bit so that the energy can just easily pass through it on its way down to your feet and into the ground. Good. So remember, when you've got the arms up like this, then you feel much more that rising spirit, the spirit that's ascending through this beautiful equilibrium. And you want to feel that that rising of spirit is just as natural and just as necessary as the downward of gravity. So the heavens are pulling your spirit in the same way that the earth is pulling your mass. So we all have a body, we can't escape that fact. And so, in a sense, gravity is always there for us. Now, our spirits are often either slumbering or not together. And so, the spirit needs to be woken up and then needs to be subjected to this upward draw that is basically cleansing. So, you're cleaning your spirit. The way Castaneda put it, he said, dusting the link with the spirit. So you're just cleaning that connection. And then just down into prayer posture. That's great. That's lovely. Yeah, so just really feel the space in the armpits. So this is what beginners will tend not to have that. Yeah, so they'll have their arms like this, yeah, and when the arms are down, they'll be like this. So we want to be as though we're sprouting all the time from the chest. So this is, we're encouraging what John called the thymus, the upper chest, to erupt and blossom, yeah, in everything that we do. So that requires space in the armpits. Okay, so now let's try something. Let's just try this, just to ease the legs a bit, because they tend to take a bit of a battering when we're that sunk. Yeah, so just think of the knee. My knee is just rolling up and out. So it's like my knees have a life of their own. My knees express spirit, and they express joy, and they express lightness. So in Catholicism, they talk about the knees of the heart. Yeah. So when you feel something strongly with your heart, your knees naturally break and you fall to them. So it's like, when the guy asks the girl to marry him, he just falls to his knees, or at least to one knee. And that's just indicative of his sincerity. of the purity of his heart in asking that all-important question. You know, he's just putting his life on the line, if you like. So here, so now we're getting into like single-weightedness. So just letting the weight slip into one side and the spirit to express in the other. And so one becoming full, one side empty, one side full, one side empty. Yeah, so this is difficult. This really needs to be practiced, because to be able to slip from full to empty with any degree of facility, any degree of speed, then you just basically have to be very lively. So you have to just practice this. So to start with, when you do this, it will take a few seconds before this fills up. But eventually, it's just a matter of where your weight is. So here I'm going down one side and up the other. I'm just loosening the knee. My knee is loosening upwards. Okay, so it doesn't really come off the ground. And I'm actually sitting down. I'm sitting down into the leg. So this leg is now just full, and this leg is empty. So 1, 2. So there's this natural alternate action in the body. Now, what we want to do when we get into any alternate action is to just observe the head, because really the head should be moving more than anything. Because this will tend to be stable. This will tend to move less than anything, the Dantian, because it's my center of gravity. It's where my heaviness is. It's got lots of inertia, so it's reluctant to move. But my head, which is furthest away from that point, should actually be moving the most if my spine is free. So just let your spine and your head go. So we tend to keep the head unnaturally still in order to stabilize the sensory information that we're receiving, especially through our eyes. So here, just let the eyes hood. So let the eyes blur, so you're not worrying about what you're seeing. And just let the head go. So it should feel like the best way to practice this, to get the feeling, is to go to your local children's playground and go on the swing. So that feeling of just swinging through the air, and especially that point where you change direction here, where you swung forwards, and you're almost suspended for a fraction of a second and weightless, and then you start descending. So that feeling is there in the head with each time you slip from one foot to the other. So you almost become lightheaded. It's a nice phrase, lightheaded. That's how we want to be. The last thing we want to be is heavy-headed or heavy-minded or heavy-handed. Yeah. So everything's light-headed especially. So. Okay. And now let's just try a little bit of turning. Yeah, so these are just the components of Tai Chi we're looking at. So when we turn, so try and keep your spine in the middle. So it's not really moving side to side too much. You're just turning around it. And again, keep space in the armpits. So don't let the hands touch the body. Keep them away, because that gives you a better feeling of the centrifugal force. So you're producing movement in order to effectuate a separation between mind and body. So your body is being thrown outwards, away from the center, away from the spine. And your mind will tend to come into the still place. So your mind will tend to come into the middle, into the Dantian and around the spine. So you want to be very conscious of your spine, not just as a physical axle about which you turn, but also as a nerve center, a center of feeling. and sensitivity. So, one. So here we're separating mind and body. The mind is being flung outwards, sorry, the body, and then the mind is being pulled in to this still center. So you want this feeling that you're just relaxing and completely withdrawing into the center. And then your energy will join your body. So your energy will be swirling around the room in this exuberant mass. And your body is slowly retreating to this still dark center, your cell, the cell of the monk. Yeah. So the difficulty all the time is just to get out of the head and into the belly. Yeah, so the head, it likes to think of itself being like a director or a controller. Yeah? And so it controls from on high. So it's elevated, it's above every other part of your body, and it's looking down on the proceedings. And so there's always a sense when you're operating from the head that you're slightly outside what's happening in your body. So this is why we just want to slip down to here and get the feeling that our eyes are either, you can think of them either coming out of your belly, or you can think of these eyes as actually channeling down into your belly. So you're seeing with the brain in your belly, not the brain in your head. The brain in your head will tend to want to discriminate and calculate. So first of all, it wants to attach names to everything. And then it wants, and then it'll start an inventory of just seeing how you can profit from what it is that you've seen. So we just really want that information, those senses coming into our belly where we can just feel. So John used to say basically you have to use the eyes like fingers, like the eyes are touching things rather than seeing things. So whatever you see, you're touching. So twist and twist. Okay, and then slowly let it wind down. And then just back to here. Right. Okay, so let's now just try going up and out. Yeah. So just really getting this openness in the arms. This is what we're going for here. So up. And really, yeah, so it doesn't matter if your energy comes up the front as long as you physically don't come up. So we're just looking at this fountain. There's like a fountain from here that comes up and distributes into the arms. But it has to get over like a hurdle here in order to then fall down into the arms. So the shoulders are quite, they're strange things, the shoulders. It's not that simple going from the torso into the arm. You have to come up and out. So up and just let it distribute out. And then this is really open. So 1, and out. So I think this is like real warrior stuff, like the warrior poses in yoga. So we're just aiming for that really fierce, open chest. Imagine those breastplates that the old Greek warriors used to wear, yeah? And they would polish them before the battle so that they would gleam and reflect the sun into the eyes of the enemy, to put the enemy at a disadvantage. So there's this sense that you're beaming outwards from your chest. Okay, now what we want to do now is just feel as though the arms are just too heavy, really, to get them up and out. So you have to bring in the legs. Now to do that, what you do, you have to really locate your dantian. And what you do, you just dip it down. It's like when you uproot someone, you just cut down into them and then up. But it's really all one action. It's not down and up. It's down going into up. You know, so there's a definite curve. They call it cutting vegetable energy. It's like you're just rocking the knife. So you see my elbow is still going down, but the hand is already coming up. So you've got that both directions at the same time. So you're basically doing that here. So with the dantian, you're just dipping it down and just swinging it forwards. And as you swing it forwards, that's when the arms start coming up. So let's try. So just feel your dantian, locate your dantian. Now just dip it down into the legs and then just push it forwards a little bit, like you're just pulling your bum in. And just use that to bring a little bit of leg into the arms. It's like the arms are just too heavy to get them up on their own. They need a little bit of help from their friends, the legs. Yeah? And the same thing here, exactly the same action. You really have to have a sense of this location. And then you just dip it down and then just thrust up a little bit to send the arms on their way. And now here you just pull the belly to get the arms to come down. So what we're trying to do is use the dantian as a muscle that actually contracts and expands, but also as a location that I can change subtly its position to swing energy into my arms. So now I go down with the dantian and swing forwards and just let that come into my arms. And now start tightening the belly to get the arms down here. Yeah. So you want that feeling that if you just swung forwards and really tightened the back, the arms would stop here. To get them to come down to here, I have to start activating this in a pull. Okay, now I want to swing forwards again with my dantian. So just down and forwards, and just use the legs. You're just kicking up into your arms, basically. And now pull the belly in to really pull the hands down. Yeah. So you want a sense of the dantian as a muscular entity, but also its position and its ability to direct energy simply by changing its position. So here I just dip down and swing forwards with my belly slightly, and that should be enough just to kick this into action. Now it would actually stop here. If I continue opening, it will stop here and just, there'll be this equilibrium that would go on forever basically. Now I have to pull my belly a little bit to actually get the arms just to come down this small way to here. That's it. So when you look at yourself, there's a sense that you're almost sort of relaxing. The body is relaxing into this, but because the belly is becoming tight. Yeah? So this is the yin and the yang of the relaxation. Okay, now again, you've got to send this down and forwards, like you're uprooting yourself, basically. Down with the belly and forward. So you're uprooting your own arms, and now you're pulling the belly in to bring the arms down to here. That's great. Yeah, so this sort of practice, it just makes the body elastic. Yeah, so here it feels as though there's a thread of elastic connecting your hands and your dantian, and by contracting that, it's pull the hands down. Okay, now let's try again. Just swing this down and forwards. So 1, Yeah, so the best way to feel this is just to get yourself a weight, like a bar, a metal bar, just a simple one, cheap one, and just try it with a bar going up above your head. Okay, now again, just down, and that's just enough to get the arms to swing up, and then you pull the belly in and pull it down. So we're just trying to get a practical sense of the Dan Chen rather than simply a theoretical one. So when you tell people to put their mind in the Dan Chen, then that's all they do. Yeah, but we want a physical sense of it as well. So it should be a place your mind naturally comes to because it's just so well developed as a muscle. And then down and up, wow. And pulling the belly in to come down to here. That's it. And then again, down and up. And pulling the belly in to bring the hands back down. And again, down and up. And now tightening those belly muscles to bring the hands down to here. And then again, down and up. And pulling down. So all the time we're trying to split the components, if you like. But then we're trying to join them back together again. So what tends to happen, we tend to think in terms of up and down. So what we need to start thinking of is like the Taoist. So if we want something to go up, we have to find a way of digging down in order to bounce up. Yeah? So our movements are always like bounces or leaps. In order to leap, you really have to sink down into your leg to actually spring out of it. It's exactly the same here. So let's try one more time. So just dipping down and swinging forwards. And up. And now really tightening here. See, what you should feel like one of those bodybuilders, yeah? 60-inch chest and a 28-inch waist. Yeah? So absolutely massive and open across here and completely tight and trim here. So that's the Dan Chen. That's the Dan Chen. It's got so much internal tension, it just holds you together whilst you're being completely expressive and explosive. Okay, now dipping down again and pushing up. And now pulling the belly in, and it all comes back down. That's good. So now this should feel like a sphincter. So you all know what a sphincter is. So it's just like a circular muscle that is tightened into itself. And so it's like it's holding something in and stopping it from leaking. So that's what your Dan Chen does. It gives you a sense of purchase on your own energy, on your own route, and it stops you from leaking. And so there's this sense that everything is pulling into it. It's like almost like a black hole, and everything is disappearing up and into your Dan Chen. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to develop. Yeah. And you can see if there's any sense of your legs saying, "Oh, I don't want to be this low," then it will basically just destroy that. So you have to have this pulling energy. So let's now just stand. So we were standing like this before. So just gravity going down and earth energy coming up through you. So this beautiful equilibrium. So you practice that for an hour or so just to get warmed up. Yeah? Now what we want to do now is just feel the pulling. Yeah? So just instead of having the arms like this, which is quite passive, have the hands like this and just really get down into that posture. And now, because it's pulling energy, instead of the feet slipping away from each other like this, which they would do if gravity was at work, now I want this sense that my feet are trying to pull together. So I'm trying to pull my feet towards each other at the same time keeping the knees going out. So what I don't want is to pull by letting the knees come in. That's a disaster. Yeah? So it's just, you've got this sense that your legs are so open, they're actually doing this under the ground. They're coming together under the ground. Yeah? You're so open here that the legs grab. Yeah? So it's grabbing the ground. So my feet are trying to pull in. My hands are pulling something. So this, if you like, is like pure Dan-Chien energy taking over the whole body. So my whole body becomes like a sphincter, like something that's contracting in order to spurt energy out on the recoil, if you like. Yeah? So my legs, my feet, this is what we're looking at now, is really the feet pulling in, and it's difficult. Yeah. If it hurts, then just look up to God and say thank you. It's not often you have the courage to get to places that hurt. Yeah? And that's basically the only way to progress is to suffer. The only phrase in Nitzan's I really remember, he used to say, the peace that we're looking for is always the other side of the pain. Yeah? So you have to pass through the pain to find the peace, and it's really true. Yeah? So you're pulling, so it's that pulling energy. So it's almost feeling as though there's no gravity, almost like gravity is trying to lift you up. And so you're having to really clutch the ground to keep yourself attached. And then you're more like an insect or something. You're like a creature that's just prowling around. It's hunting. You become a hunter. So you think a hunter will actually, he'll walk quite squat. You imagine a cat when they're hunting. Belly's almost touching the ground. So you'll squat down. And your spirit is really intense and alive. Because whenever you're hunting, you're also being hunted. By spirit, if nothing else. So pulling down, that's great. Okay, and then back to here. That's great. Okay, now let's just try turning it again, just to ease it off a bit. So just think of this being really relaxed. Okay, great. Okay, now let's just sit down and just do some of the breathing. So, okay, so just breathing by using the danchen or the belly as an assist to the diaphragm. Yeah, so we've done this before. So just pull your belly in and use that to expel all the air from your lungs. So you pull the belly in and blow out. And then you just straighten up and use the straightening to pull air in. And then you can bring the diaphragm in. And now pull the belly in again, push out. And then just relax, straighten up the spine, and use that to bring air. So you're not really using the diaphragm. We're using the belly and the back to do the breathing. So breathing right out, and then just breathe. Just let the air come in by extending the spine, and then pulling the belly in again and blow out. And again, just extending the spine. And air will come in by itself. You don't really need to worry about it. So just breathe out. And straighten up, the air will come in. Breathe out. Straighten up. Breathe out. Straighten up. Breathe out, pulling the belly in. Breathe in as the belly goes out. Out. In. Out. That's it, great. So it's like we're breathing with the spine. Breathing in. Just feel the lower back stretching lengthwise and widewise. And now everything in the back tightens. And the chest opens. And then pulling in. Blowing the air out. And out. And just start to feel the changeover. So where you change from an in to an out, and try and feel as though it bounces on its way. So you really pull the belly in order to bounce it back out again. Then here you're really extending in order to bounce back. So it's no longer two separate phases. They very much come out, one comes out of the other. Breathing in and breathing out. In. Out. In. Out. In. In. And a couple more. Breathing in. Breathing out. And so it's very much yin and yang. So this would tend to be the yang, I suppose. And this would tend to be the yin. Okay, great. Okay, now let's just try the same thing and we'll reverse the breathing. So they call it, one of the names they give it is prenatal breathing. So it's basically the way the baby inside the womb breathes. So the baby in the womb breathes through the umbilicus, through the cord. So basically from its dantian. So this is why it's so important in Tai Chi. And the baby actually, instead of contracting its dantian to actually expel the air out of its lungs, it contracts the dantian to suck nutrients from its mother. So it's using the dantian to actually draw something into itself. Yeah? And then when it pushes its belly out, it sends the waste products back down the same tube into the mother. Yeah? So that's the visualization. So what we do, it's exactly the same movements as we were doing before, but as we pull in with the belly, we just breathe in. Yeah? So you pull the belly in and breathe in. And then as you go the other way, you just let yourself breathe out. And then here, pulling in and breathing in. And then going the other way and breathing out. Pulling in, breathing in. And out. And breathing out. So it's very intense, this, because what we're working with is a real pressure differential. So the pressure is really increasing as you breathe in, and then decreasing explosively as you breathe out. Whereas the other breathing that we did, basically it was a volume differential. So the volume is changing, the pressure is staying relatively constant. So here you breathe in, and then here you breathe out. Yeah, so this is how the martial artists breathe, basically. So when they're yielding and drawing into themselves, they breathe in, and that builds up all this enormous pressure. So on the out breath, they have all this energy at their disposal. Yeah? They explode into the out breath. So here, this would be a real explosion, and energy would just rush out. And then breathing in, tightening the belly, and breathing out. So just feel the pressure changing. Here the pressure is really reducing. And then as you breathe in to a smaller space, the pressure is really increasing. And then from that high pressure, it dissipates. And then here it just pulls back in again. Breathing in and out. Breathing in. And so don't breathe in so hard that, because it was practicing this that gave John a hernia. Okay, so you have to be careful. Because you're actually producing quite a lot of pressure in your abdomen. So that lower diaphragm, the one under the normal diaphragm, is taking a lot of pressure. But that's good. It's good for it if you can not overdo it, because it makes it springy again. Breathing out and breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. In. Out. And it's great. Okay, now let's try this. The breathing, we've done it before. It's basically almost like a combination of the two, or like a milder version. Yeah. So just have the hands here. So the hands start here, but once you get into it, of course, you can start using them. So basically just breathe in. And now hold the breath, and now just pull the belly in and out. Just hold the breath, pull the belly in, out, in, out, in, out, and now breathe out. And then breathe in, big in breath. And again, just pause, hold the breath, and now work as though you're breathing, but holding the breath. So this also really exercises the muscles. And there's something about holding the breath that's actually quite interesting. Yeah? Because it enables you to see things with a bit more clarity. And then breathing out. Yeah. So you just breathe out and then breathe in, and then just hold your breath for as many as you can. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, and then breathing out. Breathing in. And again, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, and breathing out. Breathing in, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, and breathing out. Breathing in, and pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push. Great. Yeah. So there's something about the quality of the musculature here that is sort of elastic and primitive. Yeah. So it's sexual, if anything. Yeah. And so it's got that sort of heaving quality that sex has. You know, so you're pulling. It's very close to the genitals. So everything here is tensing. Yeah. So for a guy, when you tense the dantian, it feels like you're pulling your balls up, yeah? And for a girl, it feels like you're tightening the vagina, yeah? So that whole area is just contracting into a center, yeah? And then when you relax that, everything just drops, yeah? And so it's especially when we're getting older, yeah? Then we need to worry about that area getting weak and a little bit. We need to worry about prolapses, yeah. And so it's a very good idea to keep that area toned up. Yeah. But there is this sense that when you get into the exercise, it generates an energy which just takes you with it in the same way that sex does, yeah. And so. So there's something sort of primitive and very, very real about it. There's a French writer that I like called Luce Irigaray, and she's 90 now, and she's waited until she's 90 to write her book about sex, and it's beautiful, yeah. And it's like she's having to work from memory, yeah? And so it's really real. Yeah? And, okay, so let's stand up again. Okay, so now what we want to do is just pull with the legs. So it's a difficult concept. So what we're used to doing is using the arms to reach out and pull things in towards me. So we've been doing that since we were this big, yeah? So reaching out with the hand and pulling towards the self. Now, as soon as, and basically the baby, before the baby can walk, that's exactly what it does with its legs as well. Yeah, especially when you're changing a baby's nappy and they just kick their legs, and their legs are, it's like they're snatching with their feet. They reach out and pull something towards them, and they're very bandy-legged. So when they pull in, they're really kicking up into this area, into that Danshan area. The same way when they pull in with their hands, they're pulling towards their mouth generally, or their chest. Yeah. So that's the way we use the arms. Now, as soon as we start walking, as soon as we stand up, we stop using the legs like that. We start using the legs to push ourselves away from the ground. And so imagine the little child, the only thing it wants in the world is to join that world of the adults. Yeah? And so that's what it aspires to, that's its ambition. So it clambers up onto a table, it holds the table, pulls itself up, and now it's a bit closer. Yeah? And so all it wants to do is just straighten those legs in order to actually extend itself upwards. Yeah? And so that's what the toddler, that's the energy of a toddler, if you like. And that's basically, as human beings, we don't really develop beyond that. Yeah? And so what Tai Chi shows us is that basically if you want to develop beyond that place of being the toddler that wants to be seen, that wants to be accepted, that is beginning to develop this flourishing ego. So the stage beyond that for the adult is then going out and actually hunting a living. Yeah? And so you're having to snatch things and pull them in. Now for that, you need a completely different use of the legs. You need this squat use of the legs. Yeah? And so it's, like in France, like fin de siècle bourgeoisie, in France, they'd go out for a walk on the Sunday promenade. They'd just be walking in the park with their top hats and their lady on their arm. And the sole purpose was to be seen by society, was to be visible. And so the legs were being used to thrust an image upwards, which the world can see. And so what we're trying to do in Tai Chi is basically the opposite of that. We're trying to use the legs to become invisible. But also powerful. Yeah? And so our legs have to start pulling the ground as well as being able to push it. So we're not really saying pushing is bad. We're just saying we need to be able to do the opposite as well. We need to create a balance. Yeah? So now what we want to do now is just bend the legs. But what I want to do is bend the legs not simply by relaxing them and letting gravity bend them for me. I want to bend the legs by actively pulling at the ground. Yeah? It's as though I'm trying to pull both of my feet off the ground at the same time. And of course they won't come, and so it pulls my body down. And now I push down and allow my body to come up. And then I pull and the body comes down. And then I push and my body comes up. So what's happening when you pull? You're bending the legs. Now, in order to bend the leg, you have to use this muscle, the hamstring, the leg bicep. And to straighten the legs, you use this muscle. So these muscles are generally very strong. So we need to tighten and work these. So when you pull yourself down, when I pull myself down into the ground, I should be able to reach back, and these muscles at the back of my legs should be rigid. Yeah? And if they're not, then it's because you're not quite activating them. And now just push down. So now these muscles will relax and these ones will tense. And then here I want to actively bend my legs. Yeah? That's it. So when you do, then these become really open. You become, think of Spider-Man. He's one of my heroes. Yeah? And so the way he's squat on the wall, his legs are bent and his arms are bent, but he's completely active. Yeah? He's not passive. He hasn't become passive by bending his limbs. He's become completely active. Yeah? And then, so this is what we want to get a little bit of a handle on, to here. Yeah? My knees are trying to reach upwards, and that's pulling me down and tensing these muscles. Yeah? And then I push down. So of all the things we do, this is probably the easiest to cheat. Yeah? It's the easiest not to get right. So you're constantly having to have to check these hamstrings to see if they're a little bit tense. Even if they're a tiny bit tense, you'll be using them. So here I pull, and then I push down. And I pull. So the only people I've ever met who know about this, know about the importance of this, are dancers. So remember we were in that church hall in Kentish Town for a while, in the late 90s probably, or just a bit after that. And there was Rita had a student of hers come who was a dancer. He was a Chinese guy. He was a dancer at the Laban Institute in South London. And he was doing a PhD on the use of the hamstrings in dance. And he was saying what dancers find is that when you don't really need to use them. You can do all of your leaps and all of your choreography without really using them as an active force. But when you bring them in as an active force, what they find is they project much better into the audience. Yeah? And so the hamstrings are basically responsible for the spirit, for the projection of spirit. This is why they're so important. Yeah? So let's try. So just pull down. Okay? So it's exactly the same as when we were pulling ourselves from side to side, but now we're just using both legs at the same time, and then just push down. So you can feel how when you push, it's a bit smug. You come into yourself and you're pushing away from the ground. But as soon as you do this, it activates the whole room. Yeah? You become this buzz, this insect that's created spirit, basically. And then down again. And then again, you can do it slowly. The important thing is just constantly check here, yeah? And if you find you're not doing it right, then just don't worry. It's just a matter of practice. It took me ages before I could even feel the hamstrings tensing up. Castaneda talks about this actually a lot. So he wrote a book, I think it's called Magical Passes, basically Qigong, what he called tensegrity, which is a word he stole from Buckminster Fuller. And he talks about the hamstrings a lot. It's a pulling down and pushing up. And there's actually there's clips on YouTube of his students, his good students, the ones that went into the desert and killed themselves when he died, doing these tensegrity exercises, and they look great. They're hard as nails, but. Pull, push. So it's very similar to that breathing exercise we've just been doing, yeah? They're all the same. It's basically contracting and relaxing muscles. That's all it is. And the dantian, the spirit, the thymus, the heart, they're all just muscles that need to be worked, they need to be fed, and they need to be rested. Pull and push and pull and push. Yes. If you ever seen anyone wringing the neck of a chicken, then just imagine that. You're wringing your legs, yeah? My mother was from a farming family, and when you're a farmer, death is part of life. And so when I was 11, I had an aunt that is younger than me. So my grandmother was only 38 when I was born, and she had a baby 5 months after I was born. So me and my aunt grew up together, brought up by my grandmother basically. And when we were 11, we went out bird watching, as children do, and we found a pigeon, a wood pigeon with a broken wing. So we took it home intending to splint this wing and help it back to health and flight. And my grandmother saw it and says, "What have you got there?" Says, "Oh, a pigeon with a broken wing." She says, "Oh, let me see." So we gave it to her. She went, "Put it in the freezer, we'll have it tomorrow." Yeah. And that was that, and I just burst into tears. But it's like, I'll never forget the look on her face and the crack as she basically wrung that neck, And then up and pull. Something's coming up as you pull yourself down, and then something's coming up as you push down. So pull. So my idea of relaxation at the moment is I watch like silent movies, so Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and for me they have perfect bodies. They are so agile and so athletic, and their bodies are just beautiful. And I have a dancer here, and she's totally into them too. And she said what I love about their bodies is that they're androgynous. They're very feminine. And so when you work the body properly, then it's difficult to tell what sex you are. So pull and push. It's like a meditation, basically. And so you want this feeling you could, on a gentle level, be doing this all day, and you'd get somewhere really quite strange. A couple more, down, and grab the ground and pull down. And then drive down into the ground with your legs, and you're squeezing up, and then down again. And then squeeze up. That's great. And now let's just bring it back to the prayer posture. Always a good idea to have a place of neutrality that you come back to. So when you're standing like this, you're just basically feeling. It's as though your body's still doing what it was just doing, but you've come out of it, but your energy's still doing it. So you just feel that and slowly let yourselves come back to sort of like a neutral normality. Very good.